Hey, welcome to another episode of Sober Not Sane. I'm Jebb Fink. I'm your host. Before we get rolling, we got to thank Liz from the camera store. She helps us with the equipment. Top-notch stuff hanging from the ceiling here. I don't know if they know what John did with the equipment, but it is hanging from the ceiling, but appears to work just fine upside down, as do I. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe and like us on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And believe it or not, if you get 2 cans on a string, I will talk to you through that too, because I don't care. Chris Brown is our guest, and not, as you said, not the other Chris Brown, who has had negative media attention.
Well, if you go back in my past, you'll find some negative media attention that I did as well. So.
Oh, me too.
No one's perfect in this world that we live in.
Really?
Shocker.
I spent a week running into people that believe they are.
Well, I have oceanfront property in Drumheller. I'd like to sell them then.
So I'll send them your way.
There you go. Let's start a real estate business, Jebb.
And I pulled up tonight, and because we're located downtown, I parked in front of the building and just laid into the horn. Because it appears to be how you get your point across now. You don't talk, you don't write out a piece of paper and say, what do you think of my ideas? You just stand there and honk your horn.
I have no idea what you just said. All I heard was horn, so I need to honk. And I'm assuming that's how the conversation is going to go this whole hour, right? Just
from here on.
honk. We'll be Canadian geese.
Yeah, there you go. So I was a guest on your podcast, which is Cross Border. Is it just Cross Border Podcast?
Everyone says something different. It's the cross-border interviews with Chris Brown. We did go through a rebranding over the December month when I was off for surgery. So we were cross-border interview podcast. Now we're cross-border interviews with Chris Brown, because they say put your name in things and people will come to it. So Chris Brown's in the name.
There you go.
There you go.
It should be cross-border with Chris Brown. No, not that Chris Brown.
Well...
Although, if it gets you listeners, who cares?
We were joking about that on the ride down here today, my husband and I. So the word cross-border has been used a lot over the last few weeks because of the whole Coots border crossing.
Or not cross-border.
Exactly. So I'm assuming people are searching cross-border convoy, and because I'm relatively the only person with a podcast called Cross-Border, mine shows up. So we're getting a lot more listens in the last few weeks, so I'll take it.
Whatever it takes.
I'll take it.
There is no bad advertising.
Dang right.
And you know what? I was on your podcast, and I personally feel that we made better points than some of the other cross-border people are doing now. I did a show this weekend. I had a guy in the front row that said, I believe in their cause. And I said, name one platform of their cause, and nothing.
Everyone has the right to protest the government, right? Because legally you have the right to protest anything. And I say this knowing that I'm the white guy in the room and with the other white guy in the room talking about this. But if the skin color was different on these protesters in Ottawa, here in Calgary, RCMP would be in a heartbeat. There's my concern that we are holding back because of the people's skin color that's in Ottawa right now, which is sad.
I don't know. Do you really think it's that?
I think there's a small, minute portion of that's going on.
I think there's a thing going on right now that the liberals are thinking, I think there's a lot of people not so happy with us. So we don't want to piss off more of them.
Which is true, but do you honestly, and this is the age-old question, and this might timestamp where we are right now. What's the end game? What's the end game for Trudeau and this convoy? Because Trudeau won't meet with the convoy unless he has and secretly done it in the backroom alleys or whatever. The convoy won't listen to Trudeau. Trudeau won't listen to the convoy. So are we stuck in this perpetual moment of protesting everything now?
Maybe. You know what I think? There's a couple of things that I think about the whole thing. Is number one, they just showed up. Mm-hmm. And they seem to be, other than stop your truck and honk your horn, not organized.
Yeah.
So perhaps if they had shown up with a delegation of 3, that could say, okay, the three of us represent the group. We'd like to speak to the
prime minister,
the famous leader of our country with lovely hair, and
but
the
follow-up to that then would be, would you meet someone who's called for your overthrow? Like, I can't see Stephen Harper going out and meeting with Aboriginal people who were protesting on the steps of Parliament Hill. I don't see a win for Justin Trudeau here. He just has to basically take it, and he's not his father.
I think it's unfair that you pulled Stephen Harper out of the group, because I've been in Canada for quite a while now, and as far as I can tell, none of the leaders have done anything positive.
Chrétien gave the Shawinigan handshake, like choked a guy. Like, come on, like if that's not like badass, I don't know. We can swear, right?
Oh yeah,
okay. That's badass move if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, but it's like it doesn't matter who's in power. They're all like, and you know what? Don't give them their own day. Clean up the water, for Christ's sake. Don't they have a right? The water was theirs to begin with. Don't they at the very least have a right to clean water?
Yeah. We don't need to keep on pushing the idea that Canadians don't deserve, what's the word I want to use here? Clean drinking water. Like, I know we're drinking water right now. This is a luxury that some people in this country don't get. And we had protesters, we had people who were upset about that on Parliament Hill during the Harper years. He didn't meet with them. We had people do hunger strikes over it. He didn't meet with them. It's the opposition play, right? And I know we start on the podcast, we're talking politics. That's the great thing about this. How do I say this? Because I just want to make sure I coherently put this in a correct statement. Protesters are going to protest no matter what. They're going to always feel like they're never heard. So Are these protesters going to be happy if they sit down with Justin Trudeau? No, because Justin Trudeau won't change his ways about what he believes in vaccine mandates.
I'm going to stop you there. I don't know if he knows what he believes.
Justin Trudeau?
I think he's kind of reading a sheet of paper when they hand it to him on the way out there.
Possibly.
However, I will say better than Trump, who suggested people drink bleach because he thought that would be a solution to the issue.
But we have Trump 2024 flags flying across Alberta right now. And
well, because so many Albertans control the vote in the United States.
True that. Like, honestly, they're the reasons why Trump lost. They didn't get down and vote. Like, honestly. I'm joking about that.
Yeah. But I just don't. And I can't remember who it was, but I was watching somebody in an interview, and he said, I'm going to start this sentence with, I hate Justin Trudeau. But the thought that he would actually, what's he going to do? Like, walk out there and have 1,000 truck drivers scream obscenities at him? There's no coherency. There's no, and that was kind of to my point, that if they had a delegation that represented them, even if they hired lawyers, I'm sure they can find lawyers.
Oh, they have lawyers. They've lawyered up.
Well, great. Then why don't the lawyers take the wishes to the government?
The city of Ottawa, I think it was today, if I'm not mistaken, called on the federal government to appoint a mediator between the two, the federal government and these protesters. I think you need to do it. You'd be the perfect person.
Well, maybe not. Who else? Who else would be? Because
Stephen Harper?
I wouldn't be. Yeah. Well, he's ahead of me. He's written a book. He's
written 2.
Who do you think? I stopped following his career. Would that shock you?
You saw my house. You know how involved in politics I am.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like the whole place is blanketed with buttons.
There's a Donald Trump side, and the first thing Jeff says is, "You don't like the guy." It's like, no, good, because it's gonna have gone a different way.
I was gonna say, so this is gonna be a nasty interview.
Who do I think it could mediate the situation? Donald Trump. Justin Trudeau knows him.
Who would both sides listen to?
No one. Because there's always going to be that ego plays a large part in protest. And if the government says this is the person we need, this is the person we're appointing, the convoy, the Freedom Convoy, people are going to say, well, we don't trust them because it's a government plant and he's just going to listen. He's not going to do anything. If the Freedom Convoy people propose somebody, the government's going to say, this is just a right-wing shill. And he's just...
there'll be no one acceptable.
No, there is no one except Mike Bullard. Like, I'm just randomly throwing it.
I don't think he's doing anything
Brett
right
Wilson,
now.
I'm assuming he's got...
you know what? I like that idea.
There you go. He took a photo with Justin Trudeau. He liked him at one point in time.
Probably, or he just likes having his picture taken. Who knows? But you know what? He is a really smart guy. Mm-hmm. Like, he would not be a bad choice for that. And I think that was his position on Dragon's Den or whatever, Lion's Breath, whatever it was. He was kind of the guy going, oh, no, wait a minute. And I think both sides need a voice of reason that is willing to listen to their point.
But the only thing he has going against him, according to all these protesters, is he worked for CBC on Dragon's Den. So he's a mainstream media hack now.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's always something you can find with someone.
I don't know if you'd call that news. That was not particularly a news program.
You never know. We have Kevin O'Leary because of that show now.
Well, yeah, he's a piece of work too.
This has gone off the rails, hasn't it?
No, this is how all of them go.
Okay.
We just talk about whatever pops into our heads. That's the good part about it. It's kind of a flow of semi-consciousness that comes to it. Yeah, but I think if they had somebody, it might be that neither side really wants to talk or negotiate.
No, and this is the ultimate question that we have to ask. At what point in time does perception turn on the truckers, but also Trudeau? We see the perception of Trudeau being a weak leader, Trudeau being a non-existent leader because he's hiding at whatever location he's in. But what time does the perception start turning on the truckers? We see it subtly happening in Ottawa with people pissed off that their air horns are blaring 5 o'clock in the morning. I would be pissed off. I hear a dog bark in the middle of the night and I get pissed off. So I can imagine hearing air horns 24/7 would be upsetting. So when does the perception, the anger, turn on the truckers? Because the truckers are very adamant that they've got the majority behind them.
I have not seen a poll that supports that side of it.
I think they have a poll. I think they said 52% of people support what the truckers are doing.
It's a pretty thin margin.
A majority is a majority.
Yeah, that's right.
50 plus
50, 50 plus 1. Yeah, just ask the Senate.
And I go back to this. What's the next step? Okay, they're not going to listen to each. Are they just going to stay there?
They can't stay there forever.
Why not? No one's doing anything. The Ottawa police aren't doing anything about it. They literally stop people from bringing in gasoline, but there's tweets, which you should never believe what Twitter says, because dear God, if that's the case, then again, oceanfront property in Drumheller, I want to sell you.
Yeah.
If there's video of protesters or people of the convoy going into the area, the staging area, or wherever the protesters on Wellington Street in Ottawa is, and they're filling up their tanks, even though the Ottawa police said, we're going to arrest people who bring in food, we're going to arrest people who bring in gas, but they're still doing it.
And what would the charge be for bringing food?
I think it was
aiding and abetting.
Yeah, something along that lines. I don't know the exact words. I remember reading it on the Ottawa Police news release that they put out there. But I wouldn't be able to tell you off the top of my head right now. But there is a
I know
charge.
I should look that up, but I don't think I will.
Disturbing the peace or help abating.
No matter what, you got to eat, right? I mean, it's kind of like in the U.S. in the last election. You can't take water to someone in line waiting to vote. How is that illegal?
God bless Canada. As an atheist, God bless Canada.
Yes.
Our political system that we have is better than the States. I'll give you that. Like this is a big thing for us. This is huge. We have a protest that's lasting longer than a day and a half. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. So I give credit that it's been relatively peaceful. No one's been shot. No one's died. Okay, there's been accusations of arson. There's been accusations of people staying up until 3 o'clock in the morning because of air horns. But we don't see what's happening down in the States with the January 6th attacks at Capitol Hill on DC. So as much as I complain about everything that's going on, still happy to live here because we do have the freedom to do these things, even though people might not like it.
Well, my issue is I would have no problem even taking one lane, but how do you block off an international border and have it not be a huge problem for the country?
And imagine doing this in front of the White House. Blocking off the White House or blocking off Capitol Hill where people can't access Parliament Hill or can't access the Prime Minister's office or the White House, it would be like you would not see that happen.
I think the White House is at the point now, if you do 2 laps around the place, you're under arrest.
2? Even you look at it the wrong way.
Yeah, I was just getting pictures. We're from Omaha. And, that would be, it is a totally different thing, but I have no issue with them protesting. It's just, it's out of hand.
It is out of hand. And we talked about this briefly in the, sort of as we were waiting to start recording here. But when a Nazi flag shows up, that's the moment when I go, okay, what's going on here? There's always going to be that one person. There's always that one person on the left side too. The Indigenous protesters or the Indigenous people who want to say something at Parliament Hill. There's always going to be that one person who causes a ruckus. But when a Nazi flag shows up, is that not the moment when we go, whoa, maybe we stepped over a line here that we need to
Here's the
up?
thing. I don't know that whoever showed up with the Nazi flag was a part of the truck drivers group. However, then some of them should have gone over and go, oh no, you're out of here.
Yeah, get the hell out. Because
you're making us look shitty.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that'll pretty much make any beach party look crappy as soon as somebody starts flying one of those.
Well, you fly one of those, and then in the same day, someone dances on the tomb of the unknown soldier? What the fudge? I'm sorry.
You can say fuck.
Oh, I know, but
you're so polite.
I tried.
But I don't understand. The problem is, okay, who was it that did it and why did they do it? And if you listen to kind of the protester side, well, those people were paid by the liberals to come and do that. And I'm like, okay, first off, you don't need to pay white supremacists to show up. You got media coverage and a large group of people. They're going to swing by for a howdy. And I don't know, believe it or not, I don't know as much about white supremacists as you might think.
It's not a topic of discussion that I have on a regular basis, so thank God that you don't know enough, like I don't either. But
would that be something they would be inclined to do, to pee on the tomb of the unknown soldier? I mean, that's a monument to the people that made this country free and made it so that you could be protesting.
And you're pissing on their legacy.
Yes.
Again, at what point in time do you say, you might not have come with us, but get the hell out of here because we don't want to be, or cops, that's the person who did it. That's the woman. That's the guy who had the Nazi flag. That's the woman who danced on the tomb of the unknown soldier. Point them out. The idea that we have to prove to these freedom convoy truckers everything that the government is doing and why it needs to be done, like vaccine mandates and all that, why it's important. There's no reciprocal to that. They don't need to show proof. It happened. Well, they didn't come with us. Well, prove it. Prove that they didn't come with you. Show me, if you want us to show you that Justin Trudeau...
I'm kind of surprised that they didn't just throw them out. It does, I've known a lot of guys that drive truck for a living, and it doesn't seem like the kind of thing they would be up for.
Yeah.
It seems to me like they are, in general, pretty patriotic loving Canada people. So that just doesn't coincide with, the group of people I've met.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope that we're on, because it started in Ottawa and we're seeing pockets. And God bless Quebec. Yet again, a sentence I thought I would never say on the show, but God bless Quebec. But literally, protesters showed up, and Premier Francois Legault was like, "No, get out of here. Just get lost." They towed trucks.
Started writing tickets. Yeah,
like
immediately.
Day one. Like, we all saw what happened in Ottawa, and we were like, okay, that's the line that we don't want to cross, so we'll toss people. Doug Ford, I don't know what Doug.
Well, let's be honest. The French really have a negative reaction to large groups of people rolling into their town. I mean, historically,
I feel like this soundtrack of Les Miserables is going to start playing.
Yeah. What is it? How did you take over the country? We walked in backwards and waved goodbye. But
to my French listeners who's listening to this,
do you have a lot of Quebecois listeners?
No, surprisingly, but you never know. We could get one or two.
Could.
We have a lot of people from Ontario for some
Actually, who was it that it was a French politician that spoke there?
At the rally?
Yeah.
Maxime Bernier,
yeah.
People's Party of Canada.
Yeah.
Had him on the show once. That was
really? How was that?
Maxime Bernier is a polished politician. He knows how to answer questions. He knows how to give the political answer, right? He knows how to take the question that you've asked and not answer the question, and answer the question he wants to answer. So there's a lot of politicians like it's a weird concept. The only one who doesn't seem to know how to do that is Justin Trudeau, because he actually thinks on his feet to the detriment of him.
Yeah, well, that's why I was saying, if he just reads the piece of paper in front of him.
Yeah, like, that's why Aaron O'Toole got turfed. Aaron O'Toole was not a good speaker, the Conservative leader. He just...
I don't know that he was a bad guy.
Oh, I knew him.
Because you were in politics in
Ontario.
And
my very first job as a reporter at the Orno Weekly Times was from 2011 to 2013. Now, in 2012, Bev Oda, the former Minister of Canadian Heritage, had a big, massive scandal where she expensed a $16 orange juice to the Canadian taxpayers, and they turfed her. They turfed her from cabinet, and then she announced that she was resigning. Aaron O'Toole took over from Bev Oda, and I was a reporter covering that by-election.
Finish the orange juice.
Exactly. Exactly. So I covered Aaron O'Toole's first election, and I was I think it was the first or second reporter to interview him after he announced that he was running. So that's how my connection to Aaron O'Toole.
But it seems to me that the Conservatives are on this kind of a train of
populism.
Well, no, they're picking leaders that are not really electable.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. I don't know where the party goes from here. Like, people are talking about Pierre Poilievre, and God bless him, MP for Carleton, born and raised here in Calgary, Alberta. He looks like he's going to be the next leader, but I
tell you, you know what? I'm at the Crossroads Market with my business, and if you want to talk to like regular people, that's our market that comes in there, and I didn't hear anyone say anything negative about him. The people I talked to, they were going, "Oh, you should look him up."
But let's be honest, and this is, I think, is going to shock your viewers here, but Alberta is a pretty safe conservative area.
Yeah.
Like, one or two seats going other than conservatives is a massive deal, and that's why Aaron O'Toole got the turf, because 4 seats went other than conservative in the last election.
In Alberta.
2 in Alberta, 3 in Edmonton, and 1 in...
Well, Edmonton seems to hang on to a very small group of people wearing orange sweatshirts at a meeting, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, let's go with, everybody right now is screaming for Jason Kenney's head.
Which is weird, because I don't see him ever stepping down. But anyway, continue on.
Well, I don't think he's going to step down. And my question for anybody that's, we got to get rid of him. Well, what would you have done? Give me 3 really good ideas that would have helped us better through the pandemic. And I think it's not just him. I think every leader in the world is scrambling, trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah. And I agree. There's no win here, right? There's no win for any political leader. If you're in government right now, it's a hard road to bear if you have an election in a year and a half or 2 years. Doug Ford is about to find out the bad end of a stick here in June when the Ontario people go to vote. Francois Legault, Quebec. Jason Kenney has a year to change the minds of Albertans, because there's a lot of people, a lot of conservatives who are parking their vote in the Wild Rose Independence Party. And if that's the case, then we'll have Rachel Notley as premier again.
But it's just splits the votes.
Yep. And that's what Jason Kenney was supposed to do here, right? He was the white knight that came in, rode in on his shiny steed with his blue truck, and he was coming here to save Alberta from the nasty NDP. And he did, and now he didn't realize that there was going to be a pandemic, which no one did, and he had to throw everything in the kitchen sink at the wall to try and get us through this.
Well, and what a balancing act. I mean, I have literally, when I say I don't know, I mean I don't know. I don't know what you could have done. You got to try to keep. I mean, I have a small business. You got to try to help the small business owners stay open. And then you see, as small businesses, we look at it and go, well, the mall's open and nobody's even counting people there. But you want us to try to save everybody with,
we can't have dinner with our friends, but we can go to the mall with our friends. It just doesn't seem like 2 and 2 equals 4 here. Like, there's no rhyme or reason, which is understandable because we honestly did not know at the beginning of this, right? But like your business, right?
Yeah.
Did you guys have to shut down during the pandemic at the beginning of it?
Well, I sell food, so I'm an essential business. I didn't sell hot meals. I sold frozen food in my sauce in jars.
But were you selling it out of the crossroads?
Yeah.
So people were still coming in.
Yeah, they followed the mandates. So they had somebody at each door counting people. They were, and these guys, God bless, they were diligent about it. Like,
so when the lockdown when the restrictions, I'll call them, because really we did better than the States. We weren't fully locked down. We didn't have to get told to stay home and do nothing. But when the restrictions came into place, we still went out to grocery shop, and the amount of people who just walk into the grocery store because there was no one at the door counting numbers, right?
Right.
We went to the mall.
Kind of off and on.
Well, it depended on where you went. Like we live in the Northeast, and I don't know if it's a microcosm, and this is going to sound really bad, but I'm going to say it. There's a language barrier in the Northeast of Calgary. There's a lot of different languages up there, and we live in a very diverse community, which is great. So you would see people going outside without masks on because they didn't know, because the governments weren't doing a good enough job communicating with people in different languages. Like, we have this understanding that English is the primary language. Well, we have people from this country who don't speak English.
Right.
We need to communicate with everyone. So we needed to do a better job on that stance. Now, if that doesn't get me canceled, I don't know.
Well, but I'm at a loss as to how, although my suspicion would be each cultural group in the Northeast or whatever area you live in they probably have either someone from the church that is somewhat of the community leader. So to have actually gone to the trouble to reach out and communicate to them what they should be communicating to their community.
Yeah, which I agree. But then the question becomes the game of telephone, right? If you have 5 people in a line and you start with one message and you tell someone next, they're going to forget some of it. Then they're going to tell somebody else, and then they're going to forget something. And then the third person's going to forget something. By the time it gets the original statement was, wear a mask. By the time it gets to the 5th person, it's, hey, there's a dog. It's like, okay, we need a cohesive sentence, and it needs to come from the government. It's great that we have these organizations around the city that can help get the message out, but the government needs to step up and do a better job communicating to its all of its residents and not just the English.
Do you think that's Alberta, or do you think that probably happens?
Oh, it happens everywhere. Like, I work downtown Toronto. It happened there too. You always can do a better job communicating to everyone. And the idea that if you throw it out, everyone's going to hear it. Because I worked in municipal government here in Ontario, in Alberta, up north, and the idea from our council was, we don't care how it gets out, just get it out and put it on everything. Well, that doesn't do anything. Just because you put it on everything doesn't mean it's going to get heard.
It's kind of undefined.
Exactly. So you want me to go post like a flyer up in every door? Do everything. Just get the message out. And there's always going to be that one person who says, well, I didn't get it. Put it on social media. We'll put it on radio, put it on television. We've stuck it to your door. You didn't get it. What else can you do? But the government needs to find a way to get to
communicate.
All of that. Exactly.
You would think.
You would think they would do that, but dear God.
But they never have. The government really.
Because you don't want an educated voter. Did I say that out loud?
I know as an American, we never wanted one there.
He didn't want an educated president.
Well, and God bless, we were able to find a few over the years that I never thought I would say, that George W. Bush is starting to look pretty bright. Whereas his dad had to be really intelligent. He ran the CIA. So tell me there wasn't a guy in the government that knew everything.
Yeah. Bush, looking back, like that, you made the best point that I've ever heard is Trump made a lot of presidents look good. Like, Trump made Nixon look good. And Nixon fucking stole from his own part, or from his opposing party. And Trump, okay. Nixon's okay. Trump, like, wow.
Yeah. Mission accomplished. We did something, right? Didn't we? Did we finish anything yet? Put the sign up anyway, though.
We need to throw some money at this printer, so let's just mission accomplished. What mission?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
We're on the boat.
Well, and
because he flew in on that boat too, if I'm not mistaken.
I think, and here it seems to be impossible to really hold anyone to task, let alone convict anyone who was in a leadership role, Mulrooney, that where you just go, you flat out stole that money.
Yeah.
And, God bless Trudeau, and the money that went to these wee guys is ridiculous. Yeah. But to be honest, I saw the money that I saw the numbers of what his mother got paid to speak at these fundraisers. That's right in line with what speakers at big fundraisers get paid.
But it's all optics, right?
Yeah.
And oppositions are always good at changing optics, right? Oh, look, it's all
like wearing blackface 3 times.
More now. It's come out more. Like
that was his go-to Halloween outfit?
I guess so. Like, as a teacher.
Here's what I was saying to somebody that I found that so ridiculous. I mean, granted, I have 7 black grandchildren, but I was just so offended by all of that. And this guy said, well, it's not like he was the prime minister then. I said, no, but his dad was.
Yeah.
At the very least, wouldn't you be smart enough not to embarrass your father? I wasn't, but I'm sure I embarrassed my dad at any end. But
my concern about this whole idea that Trudeau is an infallible leader and he's so great, which I hear from people, like Trudeau's the best thing since sliced bread.
In Alberta?
There's a few. Like a very, like you talk about fringe minority, that's a fringe minority.
Where did they make? We started a blockade, but people just drove around Bob's pickup.
So anyone who's listened to my show knows that I ran for the Liberal Party of Canada in 2015. I was the candidate up in Peace River, Westlock. You can find out my scandals by typing Chris Brown, Peace River, Westlock. Enjoy. I would never run for the party under Justin Trudeau ever again. Like, if it comes out that you've done blackface, like that's an automatic disqualification to me.
You would think.
But why?
So who does, and this, I don't know a lot about the Liberals. Who do they have? Like, when you look at American politics, they always have the guys that are the next in line.
The Ted Cruzes.
Yeah, oh dear God.
Born in Calgary.
That they're I'll tell you great, since you wrote and you worked in media and in journalism. I got interviewed by the Washington Post when Ted Cruz was running, and this girl says to me, well, how does Calgary feel about it? And I said, he left here when he was 3. Nobody gives a fuck. Like, nobody even knew until somebody brought it up in the election. And and I said, nobody seemed to care that McCain wasn't born in the U.S. And she said, what are you talking about? I said, he was born in Panama. Is that true? And I said, am I the only one that researched for this interview? Shouldn't it be you that knew all this shit and asked me about it?
Well, and then we have our own Ted Cruz, Andrew Scheer, who was an American. Oh. Well, his father's American, and so he had dual citizenship, and we took more offense to that. So you Americans who are living here in Canada who have dual citizenship, you can't run for politics because we will hold that against you unless you do blackface, and then...
Well, you know what? I can't run because the name of the show, Sober Not Sane, is apropos. That's the only French I know. Is that a French word? Apropos? I think it is.
I took grade 12 French.
As I look to the Brazilian for an answer on French, we know it's not Portuguese, right? That's for sure. It's not Portuguese.
It's Greek. Everything's Greek these days.
Everything. It's all Greek to me.
For those who are watching, we had a conversation about a doula. We found out it's a Greek word.
That was kind. Chris looked it up. I couldn't spell it fast enough into my phone.
Even if I spelled it right, because I don't.
But it's somebody that helps people have babies.
Exactly. But getting back to
I got 4 kids. I'm a doula.
There you go. We've had puppies. My husband's been a doula, like, I guess.
Yeah, you have like a lot of dogs.
Don't even talk. I didn't get any sleep last night. It was bad.
How many dogs do you have?
According to the city of Calgary, 6.
Is that the legal limit?
That's what we have.
Well, I'm sure that being, in politics earlier, that you would have never broken the law.
No,
but
never.
I didn't know.
Well, I didn't know.
How many chickens can you have? Didn't they make
3?
Some? You can actually
3
own
chickens, 6 dogs, and 2 cats. I'm like, what the? Like, are we starting our own farms?
Yeah. Can you charge people to come and visit your animals?
Let's start an alligator.
Yeah, that's right.
See if they'll give us an alligator. Oh, and you can have bees as well. You know, bees.
Yeah.
But it's like,
You know what? I have friends that have bees, and they bring me some delicious honey every year. And they listen to the show all the time.
Conversation I've ever had in my life.
What?
We're talking about blackface, and then all of a sudden we're talking about bees. God bless you, Jay.
You want to take another? Oh, say it's Todd and Belinda. Hi, guys. So, and they.
Hi, Todd.
I don't even know what do you call it, raising bees? Because they're kind of.
I'm not a beekeeper, but you have
but
your
I
own
played
show.
One on TV. Yeah.
You have a show. You could bring people on who could talk about bees.
We should find a beekeeper. Maybe they could split a show with, I don't know, an exterminator.
I was going to say a chicken cocker, but I didn't know what the word was. Chicken farmer. Wow. It's been a fun day.
They're farmers.
But are you a farmer if you just have backyard chickens? There you go.
See, now that's ghetto. That's ghetto. You got them backyard chickens.
There you go. Well, that's what you'd have.
They won't even make noise. They'll just wait till you sneak in the yard. Then they'll peck you.
Maybe that's what we should do. Bring the chickens down to the protesters. Honk, honk.
I'll bet some of them hauled chickens before.
That's true. Oh, good times.
Yeah, I know. This is sadly how my brain works.
I'm just glad that I could play off of it. Like this.
Yeah, I haven't lost you yet.
No.
I was going to make the leap from bees and beekeepers to the skit with the bees on Saturday Night Live. You don't remember that skit?
I don't watch Saturday Night Live. I don't like it. I don't like that type of comedy.
Really? They speak highly of you.
Who? Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
I know. Like they're
Lorne Michaels mentioned you at every meeting.
Were you on it? You wrote
no,
it, right?
No. No, but I did. Partner and I pitched the show to his company, and this was my favorite response I ever got to a TV show idea. The guy goes, "Wow, that's a really great idea. Yeah, Lauren will hate it because it's not weird enough. Yeah, well, but it'll be really funny. Oh yeah, it will be. It'll be a great show. But and speaking of racism being alive and well, so." It was a show written with Shah Majumdar in mind.
Yep.
And the idea was that it was a 4-generational family from India that were living in Los Angeles, and the young kid, which would be Sean, was starting a new family, but he and his dad owned a used car lot, and so we're pitching the whole thing, and they're loving the idea, and we're like, okay, and they have a mechanic who only speaks Ebonics, and only the grandfather, who doesn't speak English, understands him. And you know what? Somehow those two find their way to be able to communicate, and we get to the end of the meeting, and the guy goes, "That's a really good idea. Hey, what do you think about making them all Mexicans?" I was like, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "Well, you know, America doesn't know much about East Indians."
Wow.
So racism alive and well. Well, we wouldn't want to put a show on the air and have people learn.
Dear God, we would hate to do that.
You don't want to, yeah.
Comedy is such a weird, it's in a weird transition right now, because I think we talked about it a little bit on my show, but we have people like, I was going to say Pharrell Williams, but it's not Pharrell Williams. It's Dave Chappelle. I don't know why I got those. I just had the song Happy stuck in my head for some reason. But we have Dave Chappelle, who the left hates now because he's being accused of being transphobic.
However, in my personal opinion, the entire piece he did was written about, I just don't understand it.
But is that comedy, though? Is comedy not knowing?
Well,
or is that ignorance?
No, I think he was pointing out his own ignorance, because he totally, and in an interview, he said, I don't understand. And I think it's really hard. It's hard for me to know what's in your head and in your heart. I don't live the life you live. You don't live the life I live. So really know.
This is huge news. Like, people just, you're hearing it here first. Jebb does not live the life.
God damn it, we're newsbreakers here.
We're going to get Brett Wilson to fix the convoy issue.
Yes, he's really smart. You know what was funny was there was, I think his name was Gwyn Morgan, and he ran one of the huge oil companies in town, and he offered to run the country for $1. He was going to work for $1 a year, and so he's ran this multinational oil and gas company. He knows how to make sure budgets work, and he knows how to find solutions to problems. And all the parties went, yeah, no. And it was just, are you afraid he's going to show how stupid everybody else is in your party? Or
do you think politicians know they're stupid? Do you think there's a perception that they think?
I don't think Ted Cruz does.
I think Ted Cruz knows where Bahamas is.
The best was, I don't know if you saw, there was a clip of him at the Rio Grande, and he's standing there, and he said, listen, can you hear that over the river? That's the cartel. It's the cartel. Can you understand what they're talking about? Because I can't believe that he speaks really good English, let alone bilingual.
Well, his father was Cuban, for God's sake, so you never know. He might have grown up with it, but born in Canada, so we might know French as well. We're all French.
He left when he was 3, so if he wasn't fluent by then, it wasn't going to happen for him.
We hold these politicians to such esteem that they need to know everything. I want a true politician. I want a politician who says, you know what? Get this Morgan guy in here for a week. Let's hear him out. Let's see what he has. And we don't have that. It's, let's find the other politician that is washed up and left politics to run this field now. Like, why?
Well, here's how I see it now. This is the way the world has divided. And the old axiom, divide and conquer, is never been more useful to people than it is now, because the world is divided. It's not just the people in our city. It's not just the side of the people that are protesting and the side of the people that are not. It's everyone's divided. But the division, it even starts with we have two parties here. Two parties. That's
whoa,
it.
Don't be taking away the NDP here, or the Bloc, or the Green.
No, I mean in Alberta.
Provincially?
Yeah.
Don't take away the Liberal Party or the Alberta Party or the Green Party just because they're on my show, so I need to keep them coming back.
But in essence, I don't.
Yes, we're a two-party
step
system.
up.
Yeah.
Have if they could step up and have some kind of answer, but so what they've created is you're either this guy or you're this guy, and you either back this guy or this guy, and there's no in between. You really have to think the other party has no intelligent ideas. Doesn't matter which one you're against. You got to think they're all idiots, which they can't possibly all be idiots. Okay, I was
to
waiting
each their own.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? I sent little notes to both parties, and I said, for once, what the hell? Why don't you guys try to get together and do what's best for all Albertans? Come to an understanding, come to a middle ground, come to an agreement. And I think we need to stop calling the lesser party at the time the official opposition, because that's adversarial and nasty. We could call them the losers, but probably worse. But you know what I mean? Like, if all of the politicians in the entire country, across the country, went, okay, enough of this bullshit, let's figure this out.
Yeah. Well, I think you have the perfect setup. Like, if Rachel Notley and Jason Kenney could sit in a room like this, live stream it, sell tickets to it, I think a lot more would get done than the back and forth, just those two, the leader of the opposition, Rachel Notley, the leader of the government, Jason Kenney. Put them in a room, put cameras on them, so they have to act nice. They can't name call. Well, not that they won't anyway. But I want them to have an actual conversation, because that question period that they do of, well, the government said this. Well, we don't care. Exactly. It does nothing. And I watched...
there's no, it's a waste of time, money, electricity.
Exactly. And there's
a channel that could be sports. Like, you know what I mean? Does anybody watch question period?
Media?
Unless you're in the hospital and nobody will change the channel for you.
That's usually CNN in my hospital.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you're a CNN guy, not Fox. You're CNN or you're Fox.
That's true. But if you can just put the leaders of the parties, like if you could put Justin Trudeau and Erin O'Toole in a room together and just have an intelligent conversation. I know that's a weird concept for a lot of people.
I don't think so. I think they should have thought of this and done it on their own. And no offense to Jason Kenney, but I think as the reigning king right now, he should have been the one to put out the olive branch and say, why don't we see what we can do together? Yeah. And a really good start would be for you guys to shut the fuck up every time I say something. It can't possibly be wrong every time.
Well, and that's the other thing, right? Like, the political discourse in this country is so backwards right now. And you've seen a rise of it in the last 4 or 5 years, but more and more people are divided. And
yes,
we have a lot more in common than we usually do. We still wipe our asses the same way. We still put on our pants the exact same way. I had someone tell me yesterday that not everyone wipes their ass the same way. And I said, what do you mean? They know someone who stands up to wipe their ass. And I was like, whoa, that's weird.
That's inefficient.
Exactly. Like, that's just back and forth, back and forth. But anyway.
Sadly, I pictured that and thought, no, that won't work.
That's what I did too. So we are divided when we have so much more in common. Okay, yes. You know what? We all hate the fact that prices are going up. We all hate the fact that supply in this country is dwindling because we don't have people crossing the border as much, even though every time I've gone to the grocery store, every shelf has been packed. Some aren't. Understandable. But let's fix that. How do we fix that? We can't yell at each other on Twitter. We can't yell at each other on Facebook. I've been a big proponent. I do Twitter, I do Facebook, I do Instagram because I have to get the show out. That's how you market.
Yeah.
But
well, that's how somebody markets this. It's not me.
That's you, man.
Schwan and his team.
The idea that we can't have an intelligent conversation anymore scares me.
Yeah.
The fact that we have an attention span of 15 seconds with this new rise of TikTok, which I've not done, I refuse to do. If you are on Twitter and you've seen the rise of Wordle, like I am so confused.
Oh, that's what that is. I saw a joke about that today.
There's like little boxes.
Who the hell is Wordle?
Exactly. Take me back to the days when you have to actually take your phone off the wall and dial the numbers instead of sending a nasty tweet to somebody that accomplishes nothing.
Yeah. And you'll say things in a email, a tweet, an Instagram,
not say in person.
A text that you would never say to someone's face.
Yep. Which that tells you how far we've fallen as a society.
I should mention, unfortunately for some of you out there, I would say those things to your face.
He has said some of those things to my face.
Yes. And we like each other.
Well, and that's
but I just thought of this. I did come up with a solution to this truck blockade and getting across the border.
You're hearing it here first, guys. Sober Not Sane. Breaking news.
Much like European bloc countries that really didn't get along, we created DMZ at the border, and the American guy pulls up, unhooks his trailer, and then drives over to this lot and picks up a Canadian trailer that a Canadian truck driver dropped off, hook up, and go into, and then somebody comes and picks that truck up. So you have just solved
the border crossing issue. That's actually not a bad idea.
I'm a thinker. No, it's not a bad idea. You just and you know what? Let alone the amount of money you have to spend to build a parking lot that big. But then if you don't have
half of Saskatchewan
is a parking lot, but if you don't have to actually physically go into the other country, and these companies could make an arrangement so that trucks are going back and forth.
Well, it's not even making arrangements. It's Walmart is Walmart down in the States.
Oh, true.
It's not like we have Walmarto and they have Walmart. It's Walmart and Walmart. They can bring their stuff to the border.
It's a great name for a store, Waldemarto.
There you go. They I was going to say Blockbuster, but really we don't have either one of those right now. So we need to come up with solutions, and sometimes
doesn't that seem simple though?
It does, but sometimes simple is the hardest thing to do.
You're telling me. Been simple my whole life. But yeah, it's I have talked to people and they go, well, it can't be that easy. And sometimes it is. It's that simple. No, you know what you need? You need to employ a few people that their expertise is moving things, and have them assigning that they got to have a dispatcher that puts everybody together. Or, you know, the Walmart guys have the Walmart guys. Like, you know, send an empty truck down to pick stuff up. And
the issue is you have solved a problem that the government wants to solve by spending millions to solve. Because sometimes
they can pay me for the idea.
But then we need a contract. I don't even need
a lot of mil, like $2. I'd take $2 million for that idea.
Okay, I think I need into it as well, and the producer here as well. So you need at least
yeah. You get $500 each. No worries.
And that's where we are. It's government have solutions. They do have solutions. They have people with great solutions. It's we have to study the solutions, and we have to study the study of the solutions, and then we have to study the study of the study of the solution, and then for some reason we forget that we've studied it, and then we have to go to a consultation with the people, and the people are like, this was like 10 years ago. What are you talking about?
Well, you know what? It's almost as simple as for the oil and gas industry, people go insane about, well, what if there's an oil spill? Do you know who on the planet is the group that are the least interested in spilling oil?
Oil and gas companies.
Oil and gas companies.
That's their bottom dollar.
Because it costs them billions to fix. They're actually, I mean, I've done a lot of shows for oil and gas companies and profited from that as well. But their safety concerns are years ahead of the government's, because it behooves them to make sure they don't spill oil and gas.
Is the oil and gas, so we see this massive divide of environmentalists and the oil and gas industry here.
Should be able to work together.
Is it the same down in the States? Like, I don't hear, like, you hear a lot of people hanging off trees in BC, stopping pipelines from cutting down trees and going forward.
That used to happen in the South a lot.
Did it?
People hanging off trees, yes. It was a lynching joke. It was.
Yeah.
Anyway, I apologize. No, I don't. But no, they're not. I think in some areas, but I don't think.
The big divide down in the States right now that I see is the Trump versus everyone else, right?
Yes.
You're either in the Trump camp or you're in everyone else's camp, which is kind of weird because there are Republicans in the Trump camp who don't want to be in the Trump camp.
But they have to be, because they think they're going to lose the midterm elections if they don't back. They think I'm going to lose all the Trump voters. So here's my thought, and this is not my thought. It's my hope, my wish, my dream. Please make this happen. Mom told me if I prayed that God would answer my prayers. I think that they're going to get through the midterms. And that's because people are going now, well, if Trump did all this illegal stuff, why isn't he under arrest? They're going to get through the midterm and get as many seats as they can. And then they're going to go after Trump's ass hard.
Who, the Democrats?
Both.
You think so?
Yep.
Yeah. I wish I had your optimism, which is kind of weird because...
Please, Jesus, make that happen.
Joe Biden has been so ineffective. Like, can you point... Like, we talk about things like, can you point to one of his accomplishments in the last year and a half, year and a bit? Like, you talk about, can you point out one request that the truckers have? Can you point to one success story that Joe Biden has? He won, but did he? Half the population doesn't believe it. I do.
No, I don't. I think he won. I think more than half believe that. I think a lot more Republicans now believe that he won. Yeah. But because nobody goes that far to try to shut down
and cuts up things
and correct the result. He doesn't think he won, but he thinks he can connive his way into winning.
Yeah, I hope so.
But you know what? I thought there were way better Democrats running, way smarter.
Oh God, yes. I think the Democrats wanted old reliable Joe, plus
good old Joe,
who is Barack Obama's vice president. So
they were trying to relive that, maybe.
Exactly, and what they got was, I don't know.
We talked about this, a Jimmy Carter.
Yeah,
that's what the country needed to feel that there was some sort of kindness, gentleness, and healing. But we're still in the middle of a pandemic.
So the next president is going to be a Republican. He's going to be the next actor. So what actor? Joe Rogan? Maybe.
He'd be decisive.
Just trying to think of an old white guy like Ronald Reagan.
There are no good old white guys like Ronald Reagan.
Clint Eastwood.
He's like 90 now. That might be
Reagan was like 80.
That's a big decade. It's not like the difference
90s
between
is the new 20.
10 and 20. Between 80 and 90, there's some big jumps, like, for getting to go to the washroom to pee. You know what? I live by my dad's theory. My dad smoked 4 packs of Pall Mall Reds a day. And he drank, not towards the end of his life, but he drank. And his doctor told him that he was going to take 10 years off the end of his life. And he said, yeah, the last 10, who gives a shit about those? Who's ever had a great last 10 years of their life? You
Betty
just
White?
sit in a chair and wait to die. Doctors don't know what to do with that.
Okay.
You don't know what to do with that. And you know, my dad is already gone. And he pretty much decided when he was going to go. He had cancer, and they told me he had 6 months. He lasted like 8 years because he wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Then he got ready. He called me and said, come down and say goodbye.
And then he was
gone within, I don't know, 6 weeks.
Shite.
Yeah. He stayed as long as he did for my mom.
Is your mom still around?
No. And I'm pretty sure they're not in the same place in the afterlife.
Okay.
I'll put it this way. I have better odds of seeing my dad than my mom in the afterlife.
Yeah. I've never been a big religious man. I lost a partner to drinking and driving. So since that moment, I've always thought to myself, why would God take something away from you? And I know if there's people listening to this or watching this and saying, oh,
you don't know God's plan.
Exactly. Well, if God's plan is to give me brain cancer, if God's plan is to fucking take
Which he did.
He
didn't do it. You got brain cancer.
Exactly. It was God's will to show you the path to him.
That's what my mom would tell you.
I am not okay. So I want to make sure I say this correctly. I don't want to come across as the cynic who is anti-God, because you have the right to believe in whatever you want to believe in. It does not bother me.
Yeah.
The line is when you start preaching to me that I'm on the wrong path. The amount of people that like preach to me that I was going to hell because I was a homosexual. Whoa. People
just at family reunions.
Exactly. People protesting outside my wedding because I was marrying another man. Like if that's the biggest issue is who I sleep with or who I marry.
Hey, wait a minute. You're gay?
Shh. Don't tell anyone, because there's a lot of people in this country, in this province, who would want to run me out of this province. Gay liberal married to an immigrant. Oh, God.
Wow.
Like I'm the trifecta of what Donald Trump has run against.
Oh, yeah. You're ticking a lot of hate that guy boxes right now.
Hey, I was around before him.
You know what? I can't believe people have that much time in their life to worry that much. I mean, it's got to be the classic
projection,
distraction.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'll distract and I'll tell you how bad you are and what you're doing in your life, and then I don't have to look at my own shit.
Yep. And that's where it gets down to. It's anyone who attacks somebody else, and don't get me wrong, we've attacked a lot of people throughout this episode so far.
We've attacked each other, for God's sakes. Yeah.
If your biggest issue in the world is somebody else who has no effect on your life, can we switch places? Because I would love that job. I would love that position of not having to care about my life and caring about someone else's life. Like when I was going through my cancer treatments which I'm going to potentially be starting here, depending on when this episode airs. When I was going through my cancer treatments, the amount of violent hate that people were spewing online, like, oh, the NDP are commies, the liberals are assholes, the conservatives are jackasses. I'm like, if that's your issue, if your biggest concern right now is some staffer in the halls of power, fuck, you have it easy.
Yeah.
There are people struggling out there every day. There are people struggling with sobriety. There are people struggling with alcoholism. There's people struggling with drug use. There are people struggling with financial issues. And your biggest issue is someone that you have never met in your life who works for somebody. Dear God, can we change places? Because I want a cancer tumor out of my head to give it to you.
I can't remember. I, shockingly enough, have read many self-help books. And so far, who I've helped is whoever wrote the book, Buy a Bigger Yacht. But one of the great points, I want to say it was The Four Agreements, which is a really good book, and it kind of goes through this whole thing where this is why your life is fucked up, because your parents raised you, and you kind of fell in line and agreed with what they said, as opposed to figuring out what the world should be like for you. But one of the statements was, the person with the emotions is the person with the problem.
Yeah.
And if whatever the subject is bothers you so much, angers you so much, it's you. It's your problem. You know, and that's a hard one to get around because I don't accept blame easy.
We are on the Sober Not Sane podcast show. Has sobriety changed you? Has sobriety changed
Not
you?
enough.
And
I mean, it has, but...
No, understandable. But has sobriety changed the way you've looked at life and look at how other people are struggling? Because it has me. Because I look at other people struggling and I say, I know where they're coming from and I know where they've been. Like, whether it be with drugs or alcohol or X, Y, and Z. But I have a different outlook. And I think there's a lot of people out there who don't have that outlook because they've never had to truly struggle. And that concerns me that people have had it, and I shouldn't say this, I'm not a blanket statement here as I roll my eyes towards the camera, but they've had it easy and they don't know what the actual struggle is. And
but you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly, right? I find myself looking at people struggling a lot more in depth because I know where they've come from and I know where they're going through, right? Because I've gone through it. I've gone through paycheck to paycheck. I've gone through, like, I lost my job because I was told, quote unquote, your cancer treatments are causing you to be potentially not at work as much as we need you. So my contract was canceled because of that reason.
Can we mention the name of the kind and generous company that
Welcome to the town of Slave Lake. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. March 7th last year. 2 weeks before my surgery, my first surgery.
Holy shit! That isn't even like it was.
Yep, the
30 years ago or something. You know,
2021 March.
How did it like? And this is when I become really 64. Well, in this day and age, how do they get away with that?
Because I was a contractor.
Oh.
I was an employee.
So they set you up in the right way to get rid of you.
Well, I set myself up because
okay.
I'm always one of those people that if I'm only doing 90% of a job and getting paid for 100% of the job, like because I've made it so streamlined, then I feel like I shouldn't be doing that job anymore. So I went to the town CAO and CEO at the time and I said, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to fire myself for you. You're going to save $40,000 a year for the taxpayers. And you're going to hire me as a contractor to do the same job, less pay, less time.
But work less.
Work less. Because what I'm offering to the town, you do not need to pay a full-time person to do this job at all. Because I've got it so streamlined. They're like, this is awesome. You save us money. We save you get more money because the tax system with an independent contractor, it works in my favor. So I did that for a year and a half. Well,
it seems like it worked for everybody.
It did. It worked for them because they were able to save money and they were able to put money that my budget and my benefits, they were able to put into somewhere else. They fired the CEO. A few months later, after the new CEO came in, March, we no longer need your services because your cancer treatments are being a hindrance to your job performance. Out of the blue.
So you can't even get a wrongful dismissal?
No, because I'm a private contractor. They can fire me for any cause they want. Yeah. I've had to keep my mouth shut for a while because we were going through some issues with them not paying me. But you're
on top of it all.
They have not paid out my full contract yet because they can't find the contract.
Do you have a copy?
Oh, I have a copy of my contract that they've signed. They want a copy. And I was like, where's your copy? Are you telling me that there's other contracts that have gone missing that you're not sure where they are?
I think the capper for me, where you go, okay, cities maybe aren't as bright as they want us to believe. I don't know if it was Saskatoon, it was somewhere in Saskatchewan. And there was some guy made up a construction company and billed the city for it, and they paid him.
Yep.
Like big, like $250,000, $300,000.
There was that happened in Saskatchewan, and then there was a gentleman in Brantford, Ontario, who milked a small town in Nova Scotia for $1.6 million, And it took the bank in Brantford to say, where'd this $1.6 million come from?
Can I don't mean to correct your grammar, but I think you may have misused the word gentleman.
Oh.
I don't know that a gentleman does that.
I apologize. This asshole decides to milk this government, and then they went to court.
And they never caught it on their own.
They caught him. No,
the bank caught it.
The bank caught it because what he did, and he was so elaborate because I wrote a story on it. I was just so amazed by this. So he knew a company that was dealing with the city. So he emailed, so he made a new email address. He emailed the city acting as the company to get their information to say, we need to change our banking information.
For direct banking.
Direct banking, because we're changing our bank system, which seems to me, which would be a bigger issue. Like,
just slow down. People watching this they got their pen out. You're going too fast.
So this asshole gets probably the nicest person in the world who's on the other end in the finance department in the city to give them a change of banking information statement. He takes it. He sends it back to this new bank account in Brantford. It's like a Scotia bank.
Right.
And he then proceeds to try to wire transfer that money that has been just deposited to China. And then the bank was like, whoa, why are you trying to transfer like 10 million, or I think it was like 1 to 10 million, I don't know the exact number, to a Chinese bank account? We need to look into this. They did the investigation. This guy was stealing from other cities.
Got a bit of a scam on the go.
But it's China's fault. That's what he was trying to chalk it up to. There was a person in China, an offshore account.
So he tried to bury it. So yeah, it's not me.
It was this other person told me to do it for them. I was just following instructions. It's like, no. Like, I know.
No, I swear to God, he's a prince.
There's a moral compass in a lot of people. Maybe his was off on the fritz that week, but yeah, you can't blame everything on China.
We don't all get the same parts when we're born. I think he may not have received a moral compass at any point.
Possibly. No, municipalities.
But you know what? And this has been my theory for a long time. If people like that worked as hard to steal money, if they worked that hard in a legitimate business, they'd be successful.
Yeah. Yeah, but that would just be too hard for people.
Well, they don't want to actually work. And they probably, unlike, as we discussed, the truckers, that guy had an end game. He knew what he was going to be doing. And China has no extradition treaty with Canada?
I don't think they have an extradition treaty with anyone but themselves and Taiwan.
Do you have a list of these countries that you can't get? Anyway.
We are fucked as a society. If 2020, if actually the last 3 years has taught us anything, we are headed for a collision course that I don't think the society is ready for, because we are getting to the
breaking
we have
point.
Been simmering for the last 2 years of, okay, another 2 weeks. It's the old adage of an airplane, right? You get on an airplane, they're like, oh, it's going to be 10 minutes until we take off. Just wait with us here for 10 seconds. And then 10 minutes later, oh, it might be another 10 minutes. And that's what this whole COVID's been, right? Yeah. Oh, it's 2 weeks. Okay, maybe the winter, maybe another few months. I think people are getting to the point right now where it's like, okay, we're done. And understandable, people are frustrated.
Which is what I think makes the convoy feel that Canada is behind them.
Well, and that's
but you know what? Yeah. In a lot of ways, I'm sure they are. I'm sure there are people that would never do what they're doing that are equally as frustrated and angry.
Yeah.
But also, it's probably a fairly small percentage of truck drivers that are doing this.
Well, they say 90% of truckers are fully vaccinated, where 10% isn't. So, and that's the government telling you what. And I don't have any stats or any paperwork to say that's the truth, but that's what the government's told me.
Right.
I try to believe things, and I try to have a mind that says maybe they're not telling the full truth, but they're saying 90-10 split. the 90% of the truckers who aren't on the road or out in Ottawa right now, they're on the road driving and
they're working.
Exactly. It's the people.
However, I don't think people can make the assumption that out of that 90% that are vaccinated, that all of them don't support.
Yeah.
You know, like there is whatever percentage of that 90% that does support what they're doing.
The best line that I heard on, I think it was CBC, I think it was Saturday or Sunday, the very first weekend of the Ottawa convoy, like when they were just there, they came up to a trucker and they started interviewing him, and he goes, "My body, my choice." And this guy looked like the stereotypical like conservative voter who was
probably an anti-abortion guy.
Exactly. So they're taking these lines. So can we now just officially agree that the like abortion issue is off the table for everyone? Because now we have conservatives saying my body, my choice. So therefore you can't come back and say, well, look.
Yeah.
It's God bless Canada.
But you know, I think numerous countries have areas that I think the U.S. has way more areas where they're totally screwed in the head than Canada in general. And you know what, I said this to people that, I don't know, you remember way back in year one, I said, I think Canada is doing a pretty good job with this whole thing. And this guy went on a tirade about Trudeau. And I said, I didn't say Trudeau. Canada, like Canadians, like actual Canadians have said, okay, we got this thing to deal with. We're going to try to, comply. But some of the things that ended up going out on the internet, it's like you couldn't possibly believe that. And I mean, when I do comedy shows and people are, oh, you don't want to get this or that vaccine because they have a tracking device. You got a phone in your pocket, they know right where you are. Stop thinking that you're hidden.
You talked a little bit at the top of the episode, the conversation that you had a show this weekend. Do you find political comedy taboo now? Because you might be talking to a group that might be very anti-Trudeau, and if you make a joke about Trudeau, they might laugh it up and they might love it. Or if you talk to a more friendly audience to Trudeau, people might say, "Whoa, you went too far." Like, I've always found it interesting about.
See, I don't care. That would be the difference. Like, I'm not.
Stop me right in my tracks.
No, but especially in a club, I'm not up there to please everyone. My job is to make them laugh. And if I can make them laugh and make a point at the same time, that's, to me, better comedy. And I'm sorry I interrupted you because you're the guest.
We've been interrupting each other all night to speak.
I'm the worst host ever.
Then I'll just shut my mouth.
Don't think about it. Just go, oh, no, you're not.
You're an amazing host. Hey, I have followed this conversation the whole time, okay? And this has given me mental agility because I've had a piece of my brain ripped out of me in the last 2 months. So this shows you how much I've been able to do.
And not to say that I've spent a lot of time in hospitals, too. It all depends on what area that they take it from.
That's true. Temporal lobe.
Yeah.
The part that controls your memory.
Yeah.
That's so before I think I sent you like 6 messages or 4 or 5 messages throughout the last week. Like, are we still on for Monday? What's the address for Monday? What time are we there for Monday? And I was like, okay, is this guy gonna get like really pissed off at me? Like,
I might have missed some of them.
Okay.
No, I did.
Because I felt like a clingy girlfriend at that time. Like,
Not at all. I did have somebody today that I just. They wanted me to go to I'm sure it's some sort of multi-level platformy
pyramid scheme
thing. Yeah, pyramid. Well, I don't know if
don't know why.
I don't know if they have an actual product, and I'm sure it's a good product and all that. And I
think
not
like the products at Camera Store, which is an amazing store. You should go visit.
You know what? If you're going to go, see Liz.
Liz is amazing.
Yes.
I'm doing product placement for you, dude.
I know. I appreciate that. So that's the problem. We can't do product placement because the product is what puts us on the air. And I finally said, I don't know how much more direct I can be without becoming incredibly rude. I'm not interested.
Some people just don't take no for an answer, right?
No, and this was the best. The answer I got back was, it'd even be okay if I could just use you as a customer. And I text back to her, use me as a customer. In sales, maybe not the best way you could have put that. Would appreciate you being a customer. It'd be great to have you on board and try some of our products. Any number of ways you could say that other than use me.
So do you blow smoke up people's asses to get on the show?
No. We'll ask John, do I? No. Not really, no.
Okay.
You know what I bring? I like to have people that were interesting. And you know what? My visit with you on your podcast was great. You're a smart guy. That's kind of a big thing. I like smart people.
Can you tell my husband that? Because he thinks I'm a dumb asshole half the time.
Where is that asshole? Is he?
He drove me here and he left.
He's not sitting in the car.
He told me to Uber at home because he doesn't want to get out afterwards.
Does he have a time limit?
Oh no, he's one of those people that doesn't like to be out that often. So like, because I can't drive right now because of my eyesight, because my surgery and all that crap. And
it's hard to get a dog to run 100K on the Deerfoot.
Exactly. So he said, I'll drive you, but depending on what time you're done, might not be picking you up. So take the Uber home. I was like, wow.
See, this would be me to a T. Well, you know, maybe there's somebody else around downtown that would give me a ride somewhere.
Who's vaccinated though?
Huh?
Who's vaccinated? Only get into cars with people who have been vaccinated, or maybe with the truckers. Maybe the truckers.
That would be. Oh man, this is gonna go ahead. You send the whatever notes to me. I don't give a shit. That would be the new T-shirt for streetwalkers. Triple vax, good to go.
Jesus Christ.
That, you know what? I believe in it. I believe in its existence, prostitution.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the vaccine. I was like, if not, we have a very end of conversation right now.
But
you believe in prostitution?
My suspicion is that a lot of people that end up in that line of work did not get there for good reasons, and they maybe haven't had the best of lives. However, I think it should be legalized and they should be protected.
We are seeing
all adults. And
no,
right.
I agree with that. But my follow-up to that is, isn't it already legal? With the rise of this homemade porn shows that people have been talking about, because you watch social media and it is full of it now, of like OnlyFans and just for fans. You're like people are making homemade porn and selling it and like bringing people in and selling that porn. It's selling their bodies. It's selling their rights. And I'm going, okay, so it's basically legal. As long as you film it and put it on just for fans, you can do whatever the hell you want. Now it seems like in the porn industry, that is a weird statement.
Do you have a pen? I've never heard of just for fans.
It is this. I have the last 2 years of not working, or last year of not working because of cancer. You do this deep dive into society, and our society is fucked.
Oh, yeah.
It's good, though.
Yeah. There's one of my favorite. We had Dave Kelly on last week as the guest, and one of my favorite things that happened was we were going to have the musical group, the musical stylings of Farmer's Daughter. And Dave says to me, what do you know about Farmer's Daughter? And I said, oh, just Google it. Well, the band doesn't come up right off the bat. However, women on hay bales having sex, all over that.
Which, to each their own, as long as you're a consenting adult. That's
but hay bales are scratchy.
Maybe
they like the scratchy.
I was going to say, there's some weird stuff out there, man.
So I'm sure I haven't.
There's probably someone who's like looking up Jebb Fink, like trying to get off on that right now. That ended the conversation quite well.
Just want to put on a coat. Try to cover myself because we keep it a little cooler in here, and I'm hoping my nipples aren't sticking out. really get somebody going. Yeah,
I'm never going to be able to run for politics after this. Not that I would, but
but
at the same time, I'm an honest to goodness guy. I'm having a conversation.
You know what, though? And when you say, a real politician, I liked Ralph Klein. I liked him a lot. And you know what? One of my favorite things that he did, and I'm sure they told him, look, you got to go apologize for what you said about the whole, he yelled at a guy to get a fucking job.
He yelled at a few guys, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he's yelled at more than one person. However, I believe he came out the next day and literally said, I'm really sorry I said that, but, I'd had a lot to drink. And he just kind of offed it. And
well, they don't make politicians like that anymore, right? Who are willing to admit their faults.
They don't make doctors that'll say they made a mistake. What are you talking about?
Because you might get sued then.
Yeah, I guaranteed a doctor that I wouldn't sue him if he just say, I'm sorry. I got prescribed something that causes seizures, and I'm already subject to seizures. And he literally looked me in the face and said, I did not make a mistake. And I said, the pharmacist showed me the blue book. Well, your pharmacist isn't a doctor, are they? I was like, well, I need a new doctor.
Just a lad. Ralph Klein was speaking of divisive issues, right? You think of like Justin Trudeau being a divisive issue. Ralph Klein was a massively divisive issue.
Oh, yeah.
Like you loved him or you hated him. And there was a lot of people who hated him. So, but enough people loved him to vote him in 4 times to majority.
Well, and he had the full backing, too, of the Conservative Party in Alberta. And at that point in time, you could not get elected in Alberta if you weren't a Conservative.
That's true.
It just didn't happen.
There's some liberals up in Edmonton who would disagree with that, but yes.
Like 4. Like I said, 4 guys with matching T-shirts.
Yeah, it is.
Would they be red T-shirts?
Red, blue, colors of the rainbow. They're liberals red.
Yeah. Liberals red. See? Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was
Which is weird. Red liberal, red Republican, blue Democrat, blue conservative. It all makes sense.
They should all wear green.
Whoa,
just everybody get along.
Then we'd be accused of being hippies. And that's not what the conservatives want or the liberals
Shut
want.
up. Pot's legal. Doesn't make you a hippie.
Do you remember that? Do you remember when that was being legalized and the outrage that came from this province? Like people
mostly out of bars.
Yeah. People were smoking it. It's just now you're able to get it at a convenience store, which, let's be honest, if I was doing that when I was freaking like out of my mind in 2009 after my partner died, I might not be here. But at the same time,
yeah,
I you know what it's laced with. It's not laced with fentanyl or something like that shit. So there's pros and cons to anything.
We're not going to jump into you just can't trust your drug dealer anymore, are we?
We can if you want.
No.
You want to keep that bridge alive?
I hate to say it, but I went through everything I went through. Let's call it a lucky, kinder, gentler dealer sort of time when they weren't doing all of this stuff. They weren't lacing it with you got baby laxative. You bought some cocaine and you had the runs for a couple hours. If you got really shitty cocaine, well, shitty. But
pun intended.
Yes, not at all, actually.
It is. We are, yeah.
So you're going through the health thing again. You're going through.
Yep. February 14th, I go back in for some tests, and then on the 17th, I get some results. Hopefully, good. So, my husband and I's Valentine's Day will be at the Tom Baker Cancer Center. We're looking forward to spending some quality time together as blood gets drawn from my veins and I get thrown into some MRI machines. Looking forward to that.
Nothing screams love like that, hey?
Exactly.
Although he didn't want to stay out late, so
that's true.
The tests better go quick.
Exactly, because if he has to sit up in the Tom Baker, he's gonna be going crazy because that place is not a fun place.
Why? Have you seen my husband? He was the guy who would be out here huffing.
Yeah.
Because I
waited 10 minutes.
The door opened 4 times and it wasn't you. What the?
And then after that, hopefully everything goes well on the 14th and the 17th. And then semi back to normality as much as normal can be with tests, because there's probably going to be other tests afterwards. Probably going to have to go through another round of chemo.
I think nothing creates a larger amount of appreciation for Canada than the medical system here.
The amount of times that I went back and forth to that hospital, my husband and I kept on looking at each other. We would be broke. We'd be on the streets if we had to do this. And I can imagine there's people in the States right now who don't go to the hospital because it costs so much. And that scares me, that there are people struggling in my position down in the States who aren't
just can't get help.
Yeah. Like, I know my trajectory that I was on, and it was not a good one. And here I am now, almost a year and a half. Happy birthday. We're coming up on 2 years on literally the 25th of July, my birthday, where I got diagnosed, and we have money in the bank. We have a roof over our head. As much as I complain about Canada, about some of the things,
5 to 6 dogs in the house.
You know it.
Somewhere in that range.
A lot of political buttons and a political size.
Well, I really thank you for coming on the show, and obviously stay in touch with me and let me know how all of the health stuff is going. You know, I have had numerous health issues, but pretty much all self-induced, and it's kind of that I don't like to say, oh, this or that happened to me, because in general, what happened to me, I did. I'm responsible for a lot of the injuries and everything that has happened to me, and you know what, you deserve to be well and happy.
Hey, I didn't say that I wasn't happy throughout this whole thing, because I could not have been depressed and wallowed in my bed. I had to be positive.
You do seem to be a happy guy.
Come talk to me in about 3 hours when I have to lay my head down and I have 5 dogs barking in my ear.
You should have got, is it Shar-Peis that don't bark?
Yeah, my husband has this fascination with teacup Yorkie poodles, and they're little yappy things that don't. You heard them as you came into the house. I love them, Ricardo. Love them to the world, because he will watch this and he will tell me how I did bad or did good afterward.
Will he?
Oh yeah.
You do your own podcast. Does he do that to you on your podcast?
Oh yeah. All the time. It is bad. Why'd you ask that question? Well, start your own podcast. Start your own show.
Well, goddamn foreigners coming to our country, ruining our podcast.
That is not endorsed by the Cross Border Interview Podcast. Love you, Ricardo Miranda.
Nor is it endorsed by the producer of this, Juan, who is from Brazil.
There you go.
Every time I say that, do you know, I can't remember what film it was from, but a character in the film said, "It is Brazil." Jesus. Do you know that movie? Okay, well, I get bored on the road. I watch some pretty weird stuff, but never whatever that porn thing you were talking about. This is the first I've heard.
He's writing it down as we're about to leave.
Stare at my mate and I podcast. You know, the problem would be you don't always get to pick. Like if it's a legitimate film work, they pick the stars. But if it's just people at home, it could be anybody.
And there was one person at the height of the pandemic. I think it was like they made $100,000 in a month. Just by doing 10 or 12 clips and then post it on this website, and people were watching it $5.99 each.
Hey, next week the table goes.
Big bed.
We go to the Brick. We get a don't pay event bed. And send your cards and letters to me if you would like to be. It's going to be disappointing for you, I'll be honest, but I need the money.
But here's the thing. There are people out there who have podcasts like that. Do you listen to podcasts?
No.
Sorry.
I listened to yours before I went on it, just to get a feel for you and understand kind of how you thought.
My thought process is just weird.
Well, you seem to have fit in here, so I don't know what
Two of a kind working on a full house.
Let's call it a backhanded compliment right there. Birds of a feather, they fly, and then they just smash right into each other in midair.
So to wrap this up, are we going to end the correct way?
Which correct way?
Honk, honk.
Honk, honk. No, we have to thank Liz from the camera store.
Thanks, Liz.
She's the person that helps put us on air, or whatever this really is anymore. Online, on air, in your imagination, in your ears. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe and like us on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thank you very much, Chris, for being my guest. I'm sure it will happen again. We should maybe get an update when you come out and all is clear in your world.
You name it, I'll be here.
Okay, me too. We'll see you next time.